I am a creative, and that is my second language. I am a connector, creative, pioneer. The creative in me definitely doesn't love spreadsheets and things like that, but I've learned to enjoy them in a way that it's like, hey, this helps us make decisions that are needed to be made for the company, and we can get creative with these numbers. And it was last year sometime I met with like a big time CEO that runs like $150 million company, and he was like, we're so different. Like, I dream in numbers is what he said. And I was like, yeah, we're very different. But it was like, it's his creative, like that's what's great about it. So I try to surround myself with people that love numbers and are creative with numbers and can even put spreadsheets in front of me so that we can make decisions for the business. This stuff is coming at us like fast. From what I understand about it, the government is responding quickly. Not normal, but thank you. I'm grateful for that. And so, like CPAs, bankers, our bankers like on a call actually right now with higher ups saying like, how are we going to respond from the way I understand it? Other banks aren't like doing anything right now until this thing is like fully signed because they just re-released information. So we'll get into that in just a second. But this stuff matters. This is the difference right here. Like, do you show up or do you keep your head in the sand and miss out on things like that? Because the way I understand it, there's X amount of dollars and you can apply for a certain amount and all that stuff. We'll get into the details. Before we get into the details, here's the deal. I am not a professional. I'm not a lawyer. This is not a legal thing. This is just for educational purpose. We are reading it. Well, not we. Nate is reading it. My banker is reading all the information. We have another person, two other people internal at KISS that are like reading through, filling out the things, throwing them away because you have to fill out a new one, updating the forms and all that stuff. This is not legal advice. You get that? This is not legal advice. This is information for educational purposes. Nate, my friend Nate, who's on here with me right now, is a CPA. Hello. He's our CPA. He's great at what he does. He loves numbers differently than I do. So I'm grateful to have him on here. I will give you more information about him towards the end as well, because he's been a great part of our team for a couple of years now. And I love having a friend of mine on the team as well. So this is Nate Reynolds. He is our CPA and he is a CPA. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how long you've been in our industry working with photographers, how long you've been doing this. He was a photographer at one time as well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Nate?
I think first WPPI was in, oh my gosh, 07? It's scary to say those words. Went to WPPI quite a few years as kind of the business manager of a studio, if you will. Like I've been second shooter business manager, and got to know a lot of people in the industry. Have a great heart for creatives. I understand pretty well how your brains work, and also know not every photographer is just full creative mind, but by and large, it seems like most photographers end up on that side of the spectrum. And I just have a huge heart for helping those who get so intimidated by the numbers and by the spreadsheets. My favorite number is 4, in case anybody wanted to know that. That's my favorite number. Out of all the numbers, 0 to 9, 4 is my favorite. And is there going to be a quiz at the end?
Yeah. I like it. We'll do a giveaway.
Okay.
Free year of services by Nate, if you can know his favorite number at the end.
Yeah, that's just the first decimal point, though. So, it's a huge heart for creatives. I love them. And what I created Rubik's for was to come alongside them and fill in that part of their life, their business, that they avoid, that they hate, they just don't have any desire to just kind of like the biggest pain point, the way I put it, the biggest pain point is come tax time or numbers, and that even trickles on out even into pricing and invoicing and collecting money. It's just not a language most are comfortable with. So I try to come alongside photographers and join up with them to free them up to do what they love.
Awesome. Yeah, we really appreciate you doing this. We got quite a few people on right now because I think the information is totally needed. So there is a lot of information out there. They released a lot of initial information, and why don't we talk big picture? So we'll take big picture. There's this much available. And there's maybe, if you know any other numbers, like there's this many people that are likely going to apply for it. When the money runs out, I believe it's over. What happens with the money? Do we have to pay it back? What does it look like? What are they promising? Again, this is the information that we currently have. It can change. To be clear, it will likely change. They still have to sign off on this new part from the way I understand it, correct?
Yes. So the official law was called the CARES Act. And underneath that, tons of provisions, but you narrow it down to what's for small businesses, and, including photographers, obviously. A small business defined by this loan is under 500 employees. So I don't think that too many people are going to be worried about that number. There's two pieces to a $349 billion allotment, and those two pieces are called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan and the Payroll Protection Program loan. So two pieces, 10 million and then 10 billion and 339 billion. That's kind of the what's available for photographers now. There's another piece that you'll have to work through each individual state with, and that's the unemployment. They expanded unemployment for sole proprietors. Each state will be in charge of, and they've always been in charge of administering the federal funds for unemployment. But this new program is also still being digested by each state. Our Shaun and I's state, Indiana, they don't have the rules out yet. They don't have the new stuff out yet. Partly because the Treasury Department's still working on that, and Labor Department, and they furloughed our entire workforce development. I don't know if you knew that, Shaun, but everyone that works for the Department of Workforce Development is at home because of the virus. So they're trying to do development at the same time work from home, which is near impossibility for some of these roles. So we've been given all this money that's waiting, and the funnel is we're at the throat of the funnel right now, waiting for it to be figured out how that money is going to flow down.
Cool. Yeah. So there's a lot of money out there. What does that look like specifically for us, like as a photographer? So I am a solo entrepreneur, which is the majority of them. Let's start with solo entrepreneurs, and then maybe if they have like an associate, what would it look like just for solo entrepreneurs right now? I'm a photographer. I've been doing this a couple of years. What matters? What doesn't matter? My income, what I pay myself, like what matters?
So there's two, like I mentioned, there's two pieces to it, the EIDL and the PPPL, how I'll refer to it going forward. The EIDL, you might have seen floating through a lot of the groups, kind of started on Monday with passing a link around, and it's $10,000. You might recognize that number as well. And we can add that link later. But this is a disaster loan. There's a function of Small Business Administration, say when a hurricane hits, is to get money in their hands super fast. So what this law did was added an economic disaster clause to it to allow money to flow through this program. That is a unique program, and it's $10,000 is the amount that's forgivable, also the amount that's included in the advance. If you fill out the form, you remember putting your bank account information that they could wire you the money. So there's this $10,000. You can apply for more because this link that we filled out was just the beginning of the application. So we can apply for more and actually get a loan. But the $10,000 was key because that was what was forgivable. That was available for photographers, people with a rental property, the guy mowing lawns for a living. Pretty much anyone in business was allowed to apply for that loan.
And how much was in the EIDL?
The EIDL was $10 billion. and $10,000 was kind of the number that most people are probably going to land on, which if you do the math, that's 1 million small businesses.
Yep. And do you know how many small businesses there are?
A whole lot more than that. I honestly,
it's a lot. Somebody ran the numbers, and it's
30,
a lot.
It might be 30 million.
Yeah.
And 90%, close to 90% of those are self-employed. Just one person. I call them micropreneurs.
What's crazy is of these small businesses, it provide. I read this the other day. Again, I don't know what's true and all that type of stuff, but small businesses make up for 85% of the employment in the U.S. And so that's partly why I believe that this economy, like help is out there. It's a disaster for the economy. And in order for us to survive, 85% of the jobs out there, that would be pretty amazing if that is actually the case. But that's what we do for a living, even if it's just one job for ourselves or like a second shooter, or like for us, we have like around 30 employees most of the time. And we're in that small business category. And they have a hard time defining what small business is. Sometimes they say it's like upwards of like 50 million. Sometimes it's like 30 million. It just depends on what article you read. But most of us would fit in it for sure. So it is for us. We're providing tons of jobs, even if it's just one for ourselves. That's a big deal. This is to help us get to the other side of this.
Yeah, the intent of it was a bridge. In theory, if the virus lasts 2 months, and we still don't know that, but that they're trying to prevent massive layoffs and shutdowns. So if you think about a restaurant and their ability to maintain the status quo, so when everything does reopen and we are back on track, there's not a re-ramp period. You're ready to go. Things are in place. You don't have to rehire and find new talent. You can retain everything as a status quo, and it's just a pause button. And that, I don't know where they came up with $10,000, but the PPL, which is what we're going to talk about next, is going to be even a bigger bridge for more companies. That the PPPL is what is you've been hearing maybe buzz today. What went active? That's partly true. It's open now. However, it's the banks are waiting. No banks that I know of has actually accepted applications. You might have sent the application, but whether it's been processed to be another story.
Yeah.
So no bank has done the processing yet because they're waiting for final advice from the SBA. And I use that term on purpose because last night we received the interim final rule. So the banks are like, cool, but we can't use an interim final rule to make decisions on who we're giving money to. That would just be egregious, but a horrible decision. So no bank is actually, that's why you heard like maybe on the news, Chase hasn't even got this going. Well, Chase is probably about ready. They're waiting for the green light. It's almost there.
Yeah, we're getting really close is what it sounds like, but nobody's able to move on it as of right now is the main thing. I did look it up. It looks like there is 30.2 million small businesses in the U.S.
30 million was about what I'd heard, I thought.
Yeah. So if there is 10, that's only a million of those are able. Well, if everyone does $10,000, yeah, 1 in 30. So we're trying to prep you to be ready to get this stuff in there. And I would just have the paperwork ready to go, have the information. What's some information that is going to be needed? We will link to it, but maybe what's some stuff that they can make sure that they have ready to go.
So as of right now, there's an application that was released last night. It's actually from the Small Business Administration. Banks are not going to be using it yet because this application itself could also change. But on the application is basic business stuff, ownership name, address, etc. And the key to the law and the key to this application and the loan is based on your payroll. And payroll is a very explicit term when you talk about the government. You can't, payroll is, if you use a payroll service and received a W-2, you have run payroll. If you have an office assistant or even had another shooter in-house and you ran payroll. So when I use the term payroll, it's very explicit. It doesn't mean money that your business transferred to your personal account. So they're going to use the payroll number. So you need to have your books ready and up to date, preferably through February 20 or February 29th of this year, February 2020. That's where I would have it. They're not really looking at March too much because the impact was prior to that.
What if you don't do a W-2? What if you have only transferred money to yourself? Cool.
I'll circle back to you. So I'm kind of starting big picture with maybe an S corp. Maybe you're an S corp and you have a couple employees. Your payroll number is important, and also important to have that by month, because they're going to do a 12-month window, but it's not going to be a calendar. Payroll costs, if you will, you can say what's included in payroll. Well, as of last night, they also included contractors. So your second shooters or your outsourced editing, they took that out. They took it out this morning, and it is no longer included in payroll. They're going to deal with those individuals. Yes, exactly. They'll deal with those individuals separately.
Mm-hmm.
So
they can apply for it on their own, is what it sounded like. They have to do their own. Yeah, and we have 1099s. We have W-2s and 1099s, but we had to pull those out of that file.
Yeah. Well, yesterday we put them all in, and then it was a little hokey pokey.
Yeah, I've been watching Zach do his thing. You put the 1099s in, you take the 1099s out.
It also includes, you also have to exclude any salary over 100,000. You don't exclude the whole salary, you just exclude the piece over 100. So if you have 3 employees and they make 125,000 each, your payroll is only going to be 300,000.
300,000. I can do math.
Right.
That's amazing. That's so amazing.
That's awesome. What's my favorite number? So payroll costs are defined by a business running payroll. Switching to, and so that's the kind of what's available now. And the talk, the chatter, if you will, is that the businesses would get first shot at this PPPL, and then in 1 week they would then open it up to the self-employed and contract workers for their shot at it. I don't know how the money would be divvied at all. I don't know if that means they're in the back of the line or not. It's just they're trying to stagger the application process to give it a little bit of relief, so it's not every single person coming in at once. That's the big key that's yet to be determined, is how does a photographer who just has a website and a bank account, how does that photographer determine the payroll number that will go on this application? And that's the huge key that we're waiting on. They have not given us guidelines as to what will be included in that. It's clearly going to be, something to do with what you make, but we don't have anything concrete that we can point to and just say, hey, that's the number. It's really frustrating, but at the same time, this is moving so fast that it's hard to gripe and complain, because I know everybody's working on it.
Yeah. So feel free to put in questions and let us know where you're at. Let us know if there's any clarity that Nate can hopefully answer for you. I really appreciate him being on here, because if I was to do this, it would not be helpful. I promise you that. So there's those things definitely that are needed to be ready to go. Is there an actual application out there, even if it's not like the final one? Is there something out there that can show them things that they can have ready to go?
Yes, that's what I was alluding to, just that last bit. I have a PDF of it right here that I can put on the link.
Cool. We will put the links below as well, and those will be the actual SBA. Well, that was something that was interesting. I saw this come up on another talk. Like the SBA is we're not actually going to the government. This is done through banks, correct?
The banks are the conduit. Typically, SBA loans are always done through the banks, and under normal circumstances, the banks are responsible for some of that loan. They have to have some of their own due diligence to say, is this somebody we want to lend to? and they're responsible for a portion of the loan. This law has changed that for this particular chunk of money, and the government will be backing 100% of the loan, so the banks have no skin in the game, and the burden is all on the individual, the borrowers, to be able to prove that, hey, I'm going to use this for what I'm supposed to use it for.
Yep.
Credit worthiness, ability to repay, those things have been honestly kind of minimized. The other one key, I guess, I don't know if you really skipped it, but just to point out, is that these loans, the $10,000 up to $10,000 on the EIDL and the payroll loan, most of it under most circumstances will be forgivable, which means translates it into a grant.
Yeah.
Because these are going to be 1% loans, and if all the government did was make money available to borrow, failing businesses, that's not going to help them, because it's just kicking it down the road. So the big exciting really piece of this is that this stuff's forgivable. It's a way to get money in their hands fast without worrying about, how am I ever going to pay this? I can't take this money. I can't pay it back.
Yep.
So most circumstances, this will become a grant, and there'll be clarified on guidelines on exactly what you can do. But when you hear the word payroll loan, its majority is going to be need to use for payroll.
Yep. Yeah, and I think you're going to have to prove it and stuff like that. So what if the only W-2 your business issues is to yourself, and you are the business owner?
Hi, James. I will say, if you're probably an S corp, there are other ways you can write yourself a W-2. Everything I've seen so far is payroll. If you're doing a W-2 on yourself, S corps, that's the way S corps are supposed to operate. It's a very normal process. So those will be considered your wages, and basically the government's going to help float your own salary for this 2.5 month period. What the loan cannot be used for is to simply pay the owner. There's a distinction. There's an owner as an employee, and then there's owner as a business owner. The payments there's distinctions that we make between those two. Even though it's just money, it's still, there's a distinction there.
Yeah, this one says we are currently in the member draw category and moved all our people to 1099. How do you do the 1099? They have to, 1099s will have to be on their own to apply for it, the way I understand it.
Yes. Okay. That's the piece, dear Facebook user. That's what shows up on my side.
Yeah, it shows up mine too.
That's all right. That's the piece that's to be determined. We don't have the guidelines on what will be the calculation to get that, because as Shaun mentioned earlier, 85%, there's a lot of people are going to be in this category. Just imagine if you only second shot. That's all you did is second shoot. Well, you're still self-employed. You're still, in effect, you're still a business owner.
Yep.
How will we calculate what this salary means? That's the one. That's honestly, that's like the big piece of the puzzle we're waiting on.
Great. Yep. So once we get that,
we will update. Update.
And maybe there's something like what I would love to see happen is, like, for those business owners that utilize 1099 contract work, I would love to see, like, get your stuff ready, get it in order, and then see what you can do to, like, just send your 1099 people information. My dad called me earlier. I've talked to my CPA, I've talked to my banker, I've talked to the guy that's filling out the forms at KISS for us. I've talked to, like, my right-hand person. That's my group of people. My dad's not included in that. He just called and said, hey, have you been watching the news? I was like, I avoid the news like the plague. I want just enough information to know how I'm going to respond to this stuff, but we have a team looking at it. So I would just love for you to see, like, as the 1099 stuff rolls out, figure out what you can, and if you're in a good place where you're ready to file your stuff, send it to your 1099 people. I would think that would be a great way. I build my businesses on relationships. Most of us are in the business of relationships, and if we start to look at it that way, treat your 1099s, because you want them to be there on the other side of this, right? To be able to still do weddings with you and things like that. I'd love for you to be able to, as the business owner, send those 1099 people any information that you may have. I am currently It's from Melissa Hill. I'm currently an LLC and don't give myself a salary. I can still apply for this? Question mark. I have the form up in one of my tabs.
Okay, Melissa, the yes is the answer. You will apply. There is, again, you are one of the ones we're waiting to hear final answer on how we calculate your salary. It's not going to be payroll. We're going to learn more about how we calculate your salary. And you may be included in the second phase, which is scheduled for next week. The first one was scheduled for today, and here we are, afternoon Eastern time, and we still do not have any ability to go. It could happen over the weekend. We don't know if what it's going to be, but it will not be a link like before. It may be a link with your bank, but it will be fundamentally different because it will go through a bank. So you most likely will start with the bank you already have, and use that connection. You're not limited to that bank, but that would be your best solution because you already have a relationship with them.
Yeah, our bankers are busy. We totally get that. But like I am grateful to have a relationship with my bank, and I have a specific banker that it does my business stuff, done it for years, and I'm just leaning on that relationship and super grateful for him. He's getting beat up like crazy as well. I'm trying to be encouraging to him as well. But I would do what I can, Melissa, to like start now, reach out and say like, who's my business banker? Who is somebody that I can chat with? Nate, before we move on to the next one, is there any like specific spot that she could be watching for this information to come out for 1099s?
I mean, basically, where did she find out about it already? We're communities like this. Keep eye on these pages. If you have, if you're with a large bank, they probably already emailed. Multiple different emails I've received from banks showing me, hey, we're working on it. Hey, just let you know, we know what's going on. The next thing you hear from us will probably be live. So if you've received any type of communications like that, just keep those channels open. Otherwise, just stay connected, honestly, through Facebook and these groups and word of mouth. It'll happen quickly.
Yeah.
But each bank's going to be different. I mean, if you're dealing with a small local bank, it's going to be different than Chase. So, I mean, Chase, I could give you a website right now to watch.
Yeah.
But it's going to be dependent on each individual bank. And then the smaller the bank, the less likely they'll have some sort of online portal. We don't know if we're going to have to walk some of these through the door, and if those doors are going to be open.
Yeah, Melissa, I would just encourage you to reach out to your bank as well and just be like, I was chatting with my banker here in Indiana, and it's not, I mean, it's a good sized Midwest bank, but it's not Chase, at all. And, but he's like, you're on a short list and I will keep you updated. And so he keeps Nate updated. He keeps our internal team updated on this type of stuff. I'm super grateful for that. At least make a request. Hey, can I be on a short list? Can you inform me? This is the situation that I'm in. Can you help me out? At least ask for, like, request that, but be in communication with your bank as soon as possible. That's where these are going to go through. So I think we already touched on this. Is any of the PPP forgivable?
Yes. That is, we may have lagged over that with what I said there recently.
That's the way I understood it as well. That's the hope, is that it will turn into a grant.
Yes.
I already applied for this today. I'll go ahead and touch base on the PPP.
No, I was just saying the salary times 2.5. This is for businesses with payroll. The payroll times 2.5 is the number that they're using as what that's going to be your loan amount. And if you use it properly, that will be forgivable. And there's a question in here talking about rent. The number they're using for rent is a maximum of 25% of your loan can be used for rent, utilities. There's a few other small things that are included, but rent and utilities. You're trying to keep your facility, and you're trying to keep your people is what they're focused on. Your business license, you take care of that yourself. That may or may not be due. But other things like just, other basic, there's overhead, there's insurance. Well, you're gonna have to deal with that some other way. But they're wanting to keep the lights on, keep you in your building, and keep your people, is the way I read it. 25% for rent utilities, 75% for payroll. That's going to be the guy. If you meet those guidelines, that as of right now, that's the and there might be an adjusted window within which you must spend that. And keep good track. I saw one good recommendation that if you can open a separate account to put this money into, make the expenditures from that account that will apply toward that forgiveness rule directly from there. So you have a direct flow of money coming from the government right to the allowable expenditures. And then you'll be easily to show, hey, I spent the money where it was supposed to be spent. There might be a time frame window that you will have to do it within, meaning they're not going to give you a year to spend this, but it'll be a relatively short window. But the idea is it's going to be about a 2 or 3 month window, which will match the loan amount.
Cool. This person applied for the EIDL emergency advance, but like they have to wait, right? Like, is that what all got changed?
So the EIDL grant is could show up any moment. I was having my clients apply on Monday when the link went live. There was a paper process right before that quickly got turned into an online portal and much more streamlined. But the $10,000 in theory could show up any moment for some of my clients. It was 3 days from the application being processed. So when we hit submit, that doesn't mean process. It means there might need to be some sort of human eyes on it before before it's available, but then it's 3 days. So the idea is to get the money now. The $1,200 for the personal, $1,200 per person and $500 per kid, that could take a couple more weeks because the system is just feeling a whole lot more stuff, a lot more people.
Is the EIDL, so the EIDL says $10,000 is forgivable. Is there stipulations on how the funds are used? We've been chatting a little bit about that. I'm just going through the questions.
Yeah. No, that's a slightly different as far as what those funds, those are slightly different rules for those. And I will say, let's see, I'm trying to read from, and again, things are changing and there could be further clarification. So I'm going to completely hedge my statements because I wish I could give more definition, but it's just
it's the information that we have. This is for educational purposes only.
My insurance does allow me to speak without. So yes, there are restrictions. Payroll is one of the big chunks that is allowed. So the EIDL is meant for payroll, for again, for rent, utilities, also mortgage payments can be used under that as well. I'm scrolling through real quick.
Is mortgage payments because you have a home office?
No, you could still rent. I mean, you could still be a small business and have a studio that you bought a little building or.
Gotcha. Mortgage based on business. Yep. Gotcha. Not like your home mortgage.
Right. The EIDL was just a quick hit. Some people may just take the EIDL and be done, and not go on into the payment or to the payroll one, just for simplicity purposes. Like partly because maybe my payroll isn't that high, and I'm not going to really qualify for much. Because if you qualify for the payroll, this is getting a little accounting geek on everybody, but if you qualify for the payroll loan, you have to factor in the EIDL money into that loan. You have to. There's going to be calculations and rules that say, hey, you can't double dip. You can't use the EIDL for some payroll and the payroll loan for some more payroll. You can't. The payroll is going to be one or the other type of thing. So if you move forward with the PPPL, you will have to account for the EIDL.
On that note, this is a good question. Can you apply for the disaster loan and the PPL? Are both forgivable?
Yes and yes, Todd. Okay. Yes and yes. I'll say it is possible. The idea would be if you do the PPPL loan, they're going to count the advance, which is a grant in effect. They're going to count that advance toward a portion of the forgivable part of the PPPL. So in effect, you're not going to get an extra 10 out of it, because they'll become one and the same at that point.
Yeah.
In effect, not literally, but in effect.
Yeah. They're gonna do the math based on what you took, where you spent it, not separately. It will be like you have to prove where you're spending this money, is the way I understand it as well. So thank you for putting that link in, whoever did that. If you haven't clicked through, we've put it a couple times in here. The Be Live link allows it to where I can see your name on it versus when it just says Facebook user. That's the only difference. Okay. Just you allow Facebook to do that. It's not a big deal. But Melissa, thank you for this link. That is a good place. SBA.gov is where a lot of this information is going to come from.
That's the EIDL. And someone asked about what it can be used for, but I mentioned payroll. And this is why I chuckle a little bit, because it's to be clarified. All this stuff is moving so fast we can't speak with definition within just about. We're not even are we even a week from signature? I don't know what time of day you signed it last Friday, but is it Friday?
It's it's Friday. Yeah. Okay. It's cleaning day for me, so that's how I know it's Friday, because on Fridays, under this new at-home thing, we have this is my business list, and this is my chore list. So when we didn't go on at 1, I raced down and did chores for 37 minutes or whatever, trying to get caught up on both things. That's crazy. Nice. So
nice. Well, I feel like I was talking about the rules for the EIDL, $10,000, because I think a lot of people did this one. You can use it for payroll, rent, and here's the one that makes me chuckle: repaying obligations that cannot be met due to revenue loss.
That's a great one.
Yeah, we're gonna have more clarification on that one.
So like my tennis, my fitness, I can't pay that because I don't have the income. What about my dog food? That has affected
dog grooming.
My dog groomer. That's more expensive for some of these darn dogs. Does it make a difference if you pay yourself the same amount regularly, so a salary?
Okay, that's what we were referring to as ownership draws, if you will, and that's again to be determined. And I wish we could give you more information right now, but honestly, like the door isn't even open yet, so we'll get you that information probably about the same time the door's open for it.
Cool. So I think Jane is saying it's for rent. I think it's like paying rent for a studio, is from the way I understand this. So our money's
not
paid
rent to
for
yourself,
rent
not for a home office. Rent you pay for studio is eligible under the 10K. At this point there's no restrictions on the percentage. Under the PPPL, it's up to 25% rent and utilities to qualify for forgiveness. Is kind of like you want everyone's focused on forgiveness because we want this to be a grant. We just don't. I mean, I'm sure a 1% loan isn't necessarily a bad thing for most people, but that's not what we're focused on right now.
Yep. So it's like if it is 10 grand, it'd be 2,500 can go towards those things. 7,500.
If you're talking about the PPPL, yes.
Yeah.
They did not give percentage guidelines under the $10,000 grant under the EIDL.
Yeah.
We don't have those guidelines yet. There could be. It wouldn't surprise me, but they just didn't do that yet. Whereas the PPPL, that has been pretty consistent throughout the 25%.
Where are we at now? Not sure how much of 10,000 I will get, and if it will be forgiven. No employees, so not sure how it will work. So that's all based on them as a solo entrepreneur.
Yeah, and the way I understand it, that was doesn't you don't need employees to qualify. There was a clear check mark box when we were filling those out for the applicant is an individual who operates as a sole proprietorship with or without employees or as an independent contractor. So they did not make any distinction for employees under the $10,000 EIDL.
if we are in the group, who would apply on April 10th and who there are no answers for yet? Should we be applying for the $10,000 disaster loan in the meantime?
That's a good question, because I believe that something may happen tomorrow with a disaster loan. They may or may not, it may or may not be turned off. There was talk about part of the application, that's the current application, which still isn't live, but the current draft, I'll say, have you received the EIDL between January 31 and April 3rd, 2020, which is today? So they're asking, have you received this this loan? So if you apply for that tomorrow, it might change things. I've been telling people to go ahead and do it. It's there, as long as you're not perjuring yourself. Just make sure you answer the questions truthfully, and it's there. If the money shows up and you need to pay it back, then just hold on to it. If you're not sure, put it in a fund separate from itself, and just wait. If you're worried about it until there's clarity, is what I've been advising the clients. One other kind of peculiarity about the EIDL is that this website that we all went to and filled out the information appears to be the first step. It's like opening the application. I believe there'll be many more documents and things we have to send in just for the EIDL. However, if you get denied for the EIDL, there is a provision that you'll just keep the $10,000 anyway, even if you don't qualify for a loan. I mean, because in theory, you'll for the EIDL, you'll be able to ask for more at some point. You can ask for more, but up to 10, they'll just say, we gave it to you, just keep it. Now, you still may need to spend it according to the guidelines, but they're not gonna just take it back if you're not approved.
Yeah, it sounds like as we get more information, this stuff will become more clear, hopefully, and we're waiting for some of that stuff to happen. If you were an LLC in Indiana with just freelancers, what would you do?
You got to wait. I mean, get ready and wait. Hurry up and wait.
So have the stuff ready to go, have the information ready to go. It's going to be like, let's get this stuff in, get in before, you're 1 in 30, so.
And we can also put a link. The second thing I'd say is wait for the SBA information, but at least for Indiana, keep an eye on the unemployment page, and I'll put a link up that you could just click your state, and it'll take you right to your state's unemployment office. So we'll put a link up that has that information. That if you're not in any state you're in, you can be able to click this link, find your state unemployment to see if they're ready to with their guidelines for self-employed individuals. Historically, self-employed individuals never qualified for unemployment. Now there's a provision that will allow them to qualify for state and federal unemployment. So keep an eye on that as well. That's something you can do. That may be live for your state already. I don't know all 50 states exactly on their unemployment sites, but that's something that could hit before we get final information on the PPPL.
Cool. We got a bunch more questions. Let's try and crank through some of them. How many months' salary would be covered?
With the PPPL, the calculation is 2.5 months. That's the number they've been using. So 2.5 your average monthly salary. The average monthly salary, the initial calculation said take the 12 months ending February 29th, 2020, and use that as an average it out.
She is an S corp. I'm not going to put that one up here, but so payment would need to be processed, paid, issued as a salary, correct?
Yes. Basically, the idea is like you will be able to just continue your payroll without interruption, even though there's no money in your bank, because we're going to give you the money. So yes, and that's a window of time. There'll be a finite window of time with which you must spend that money on that salary.
I'm a sole proprietor. Don't issue a W-2 to myself, but my CPA does the profit and loss for my taxes. How would I apply? That's what we're waiting on, I believe.
A little bit, but you need to have your have your books done for 2019 and have your books done through February 29, 2020, because they're most likely are going to be looking for some information of income and expenses in that period, 12 months ending this February. So 10 months of 19 and the first 2 months of 20.
So they were like a whole different thing. They're like, you don't have to pay taxes till June or July. But make sure your books are all dialed in, which they should be ultimately anyway, but sometimes it buys us a little bit of time for tax purposes.
Yeah, well, what else are us, the photographers doing right now? It's not a whole lot.
It's true.
Just
homeschooling children and things like that.
Just stuff like that.
Trying to stay sane, making sure they have.
Can you imagine just being a single person? How much different this, some of one of the best memes was, the single person post. Yeah, what 10 things, skills should I improve during this time off? What 10 hobbies or crafts should I pick up? And then the parents are like, how can I just survive teaching my kids?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm drowning. For the LLC question you just answered from Melissa, we're just trying to keep up on questions. That was a while ago. Should we apply for the $10,000 grant as well for the LLC question?
I would, and I would do it today. Today
cool.
May or may not be the last day. Not to qualify, but to affect the PPPL, especially if you have a large payroll.
Melissa says, thank you so much.
No doubt.
Initially, they had retirement and health insurance included. Is that still the case? Did they change that?
Todd, I was trying to be a little thin on verbiage, but yes is the short answer.
There is still included.
Yes, there are still. When you say payroll, they have identified a few other items that can be included with that. Let me pull that up real quick here. Again, these are interim rules. We're to be determined. Payments for vacation, parental, family, medical, or sick leave, allowance for separation allowances. So if you gave a severance, is the way I would read that. I'm not allowance for separation. That there could be other interpretations. That's one way I read that. Payment for the provision of employee benefits consisting of group healthcare coverage, including insurance premiums, retirement pay. So I think that probably answered his question. That most likely, yeah, that's still all in there.
So should I wait to fill out the SBA and just go to my bank for info?
You can fill out that SBA application. Just know that they may throw that one in the trash today and make you do a new one.
Yeah,
it may not change.
I think it's good to be proactive. I agree. Like I'd say, don't miss it.
At least, at minimum, have that information ready. I mean, if you don't know your business start date, that's one little piece that sometimes. When did I start? Like, you might have to go digging.
Yeah, get some info ready to go. For those of us who need to wait until the second phase, should we consider applying for unemployment?
Absolutely. And that link to all the 50 states will be put in the notes for comments. I'm not sure where we're putting it. Yeah.
This is a very specific. Go ahead.
So we'll put it in there, and then yes, your state may not be ready, just like everyone else, but you can at least go to their site and see if they are or not.
Good old state of California, where I used to reside. Maybe one of the reasons I moved. I hear that California is allowing unemployment benefits for sole proprietors, but the application process asks for last employer W-2 info. Is this just a matter of waiting for the state to adjust the application, or do you suggest applying ASAP? And even if you have to put in your last W-2 side teaching job that doesn't reflect income from your business, feel free to ignore that if the question is too specific.
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
I would recommend, that sounds very similar to what we're at facing in Indiana. And they have a big giant bulletin on their page when you go that says, we're not ready yet. you can still go apply. You can always go apply for unemployment, but the big chunk for the self-employed people has not been digested by their system yet. So I would honestly say wait. Two reasons. One, you might get denied based on what you put in and cause some additional issues there. And two, most likely it'll be retroactive to when you should have started anyway. They're waiving some rules on that. My state has a 1 week cooling off period. You lose your job, you can't get benefits that next week. You got to wait a week. They've waived that, so you can get quicker benefits. I would wait or at least research a little better to know whether they've fully digested the new unemployment rules.
This will be the last question, and then we will jump. But so EIDL loan is for salary, and the PPPL is for 1099s, correct?
No. They're both for small businesses. They're both for salary replacements, if you will, and a portion of each would also qualify for rent assistance, if you will.
Cool.
So there's no distinction that between the two loans. They're pretty similar, slightly different methods, but overall pretty much the same intent.
Cool. Nate, we'll link to this as well, but Nate, where can they find you?
Rubix.llc.
Rubix.llc, Rubix.llc.
Yes, or on Facebook as Rubix-Accounting for Photographers.
Cool. He's been a great help. I appreciate him so much for being on here. There is a lot going on. I strongly suggest to not put your head in the sand with these particular things, because these can be the saving grace of like whether or not we survive on the other side. I know even as much as we don't love it, a lot of us may live paycheck to paycheck or whatever, job to job. We are doing what we can to keep up with this, but do not keep your head in the sand about this one. Be prepared, be ready to apply for these things. It can save your business. Please stay aware and apply where needed. We're just trying to inform you that just got an email from Chase, and they're doing a webinar for PPL at 4 p.m. Eastern. Good information. Chase is a big dog. They're going to know some stuff for sure. It's probably going to be information about how they are going to plan for this as well. So Chase is a big dog. I would definitely check that out. Thank you so much, Todd. We're just trying to be on here. Nate is a pro at this. If you have that link, Todd, please share it. So I'm sure you could find it on Chase or just search it. But if you can share it on here, that would be great. I am proud of you guys for being on here. The numbers are better than I expected. This stuff is good information, but not easy to always listen to for creatives. Todd, thank you for putting that link in here. I appreciate that. Thank you, Nate, for being on here. Reach out to him. He's busy, and he's my CPA. But if he can, he will answer questions as you have them. If you're looking for insight, he's been great for our company, and I really appreciate. He's been through some major stuff with us, and I love it. And we're in one of those seasons now as well that it's like, hey, I see Nate and talk to Nate a lot more than usual, because we're relying on the professional to do this, And so if you don't have a CPA, reach out, find one. This is the first thing I wanted to outsource in my business. Like, how can I not deal with taxes and money things and all that stuff? Of course, we have to, as business owners, make decisions based on money. And, there's a lot of questions in here about what to do with this and all those things. It's going to be very specific through all those things, but we are not legally bound to any of this information. We are just sharing for educational purposes what we have learned, and he's got his nose close to this, and he's watching this thing, and I really appreciate that. But take care of yourselves, stay safe. Again, thank you, Nate, for being on here. We're going to watch this and continue to give out information if we can. I'll be back on here at 4:00 today with Julie Paisley, not talking about finances, but how to pivot, how to pause, how to plan, how to respond during this time. So I hope to see you back here at 4 o'clock. And again, thank you so much for being on here. Thanks for hanging with us, and we will see you soon.